Hello, ladies and gents, boys and girls, people of all identities, sexualities, and more, and welcome back to another Doctor Who review. And today's Doctor Who review is another Big Finish box set. So, without further ado, let's get into the 10th Doctor. River and Riversong. So the first story in this box set, Expiring Dating, is a brilliant example of when people send letters to each other so often that they really start to get caught up in each other's lives. River first sends a bottle out into space in hopes of tricking the Doctor into breaking into a vault and getting her a scroll that she really wants. The 10th Doctor originally accepts this offer, and of course, he begins to discuss with her how it's going to happen. But, annoyingly for him, he keeps getting dropped further and further in the plot as they begin to unfold mysteries and mythology of different worlds. Eventually, it gets to the point that the 10th Doctor doesn't want to help River anymore and doesn't want to do this heist. And so, instead, he decides to go off on a bunch of adventures of his own. Now, of course, you may look at this and go, well, what do you mean this was a bad thing? Surely that means he'll do absolutely anything. She says, of course, but it becomes a problem when the two doctors almost meet. This causes River to kind of thank her lucky stars that she kind of ghosts the Fifth Doctor. Of course, though, the Fifth Doctor will not get over it, and so she's left with no choice but to drug him. And in doing so, eventually, knowing that she's jumped in and out of the Doctor's timeline along history, the Sixth Doctor also finds a bottle and most probably multiple other incarnations of the Doctor. And so the Doctor soon cottons on and pulls River up on it, realizing that he's not just been manipulated in one lifetime, but in thousands. Luckily for him, though, he finds a voice recording of the Sixth Doctor telling Riversong that he's not interested, thank you very much, but he would prefer to go on other adventures. The second story, Precious Annihilations, is a story about jewellery, about explosions, and most of all, it's about a species far from space getting the wrong idea about their neighbours. The Doctor and River get caught up in a 1912 plot devised by a species and also dealing with the grief of a hubris husband. A man fell in love with a woman from the stars, and of course, she had vengeance out for the earth. She made fashion jewellery, but didn't tell him about its explosive capabilities, and when he did figure out what she was doing, he decided to murder her. Although this was not the end of her plot, knowing this might happen, she had a failsafe. The Doctor and River go down the timeline to figure out exactly what happened and where it all began, but failing to find the guy's girlfriend when she's still alive, they still find the hologram and begin to discuss with the hologram the consequences of their actions. The hologram keeps on insisting that the jewellery shouldn't go off by accident, but the Doctor points out that it's too late. The fashion accessory is now an explosive weapon and is deadly to kill. The last and final story in this box set is Ghosts. A very funny, witty story, which has a great plot twist in the end. A story about death, about loss, about companionship, and most of all, about the fear of AI becoming sentient. The Doctor and Riversong land on a planet and begin to reminisce about ghosts, but little do they know that they are indeed ghosts themselves. They find out along the way that A ship has crashed on the planet below, and as a surviving backup on its system, it has been creating holograms of all the people who died on it. Hologram River and Hologram Doctor eventually find out from Real River and Real Doctor that they were only programmed in to save all the holograms from dying off. The Doctor comes up with a last minute fixed plan, allowing the holograms to be able to survive in an alternate hard drive. But, sadly, as a bittersweet sacrifice to this story, Hologram River and Hologram Doctor are sacrificed in the process. They are used as a means to an end in order to ensure the survival of the other AI. The Doctor kind of overlooks them throughout the story and doesn't have much emotion or much love for them. But River suddenly does feel some compassion for the creatures, knowing that although they may only be holograms of living people, they deserve so much more, as they were once people themselves, and they are all that remains. So what did I think of the 10th Doctor and Riversong? Well, as a series, it's quite brilliant. I like the way that it starts to fill in the gaps of what River gets up to and the Doctor finds out about, how their paths constantly keep on crossing. And most importantly, I like the effect that happened in this box set where the Doctor knows about the library, but he knows he can't bring it up. And especially more than anything, he knows that one day that future him will know that Riversong is no longer around. But he doesn't let this bring him down, and of course he jumps for joy at every opportunity he gets to spend with her. In the first story, he really tries to find out the truth about who she is in his future, and he starts to be appalled when he finds out that she uses a gun and starts shooting things and killing people, and this really kind of puts him off a bit. But eventually he overlooks it and begins to find the joy in their adventures. The only thing that seems to bother him is the fact that she jumps in and out of his timeline, doesn't seem to age, and also seems to have a disregard for his personal history. As a solid River story, this really hits the nail on the head. As a solid Doctor story, it really gets to see the Doctor at all different periods of his life. And especially with the 10th Doctor, I like the elements that sometimes you could tell he was like Time Lord Victorious, sometimes he was just plain old wind sailing Doctor, and other times he was just a little bit of grief when he's no longer travelling with his companions, especially when he knows the consequences of what happens. The Doctor and River have a little reminisce about Donna Noble at one point, implying that at this point in time, the Doctor has just left Donna Noble and has erased her memory, obviously causing him a lot of pain and a lot of grief. Overall, I'm going to give this a solid 8 out of 10. I thought the stories were brilliant. I love the reminiscing. The only thing I wish is that some of the pacing and some of the explanations were there. But of course, I mean, I'm not the writer, and I really appreciate the way the writer told this story, especially as it's a really good way of expanding upon a media of exploring Riversong's life. Because, of course, we don't know all the pieces to her life. And I feel like Big Finish has done a phenomenal job at really highlighting some different moments. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in another Doctor Who review. Until then, stay beautiful and Alon sea.